Hello everyone, Paul Hakimian here. We have got a great show planned today. We're going to be touring through the new Valley Hospital complex here in Paramus, New Jersey, and we're going to be talking about some things. We're going to be heading down to the operating room, we're going to go to an MRI room, patient rooms. Everything here is brand new, high tech, and we're even going to talk a little bit about the Alexander mural here that they've set around the hospital. A lot of history involved there. So as always, let's get into things.
Welcome to Valley Hospital. We are about to tour the new hospital Paramus, which we broke ground on November 1st, 2019, and we're at a point right now where we're in substantial completion mode, and we expect to occupy on April 14th. 2024. We're trying to develop more of a campus environment for our patients. The building that we're sitting in now is our 140 East Ridgewood Avenue building, which will be a future medical arts pavilion for Valley Hospital. We are going to have many services here. For example, the two top floors of this building will be close to 50,000 square foot of cardiac services. We hope to consolidate all throughout Bergen County most of our cardiac services here. We've recently moved in our pediatrics, our OB practice, as well as our MIGS Urogyne practice here as well. Eventually we plan to increase the total amount of services. Keeping in that campus environment, we have 140 East Ridgewood Avenue, obviously the new hospital, and then our Lucco Pavilion, which is across the street of Winters Avenue, which is primarily our same-day surgery and our oncology cancer treatment. Behind that, we have our 599 Valley Health Plaza, which serves as a support center for the new hospital. And then finally, our 17 Park Place building, which is also a support center for the new hospital. So in total, we have over 40 acres of space here for our patients, our staff, and our family members, of which 30% will be green space. And we'll be showing you our green roof as one of our pride and joy, which is our green roof, which is over our podium building, which enables our patients to see beautiful greenery as part of their healing process.
Right. So when you were designing, constructing the building, how important was just the whole concept of being just eco-friendly across the building? How important was that to the construction?
Well, we made it a drive for us to be it's called a LEED accredited building, LEED certified building. The United States Green Building Council, or the USGBC, rates building according to their environmental friendliness, their sustainability, and so forth. Buildings are rated from a certified level, a silver, a gold, and then a platinum. And we are a gold-rated healthcare project, which means we are more efficient, which means we use less water, which means we use sustainable products, renewable products, the cleaning products that we use, and of course the furniture that we purchase will not off-gas and provide harmful volatile organic compounds or VOCs to our patients and family members.
Right, so when designing the new building with a whole full clean slate, was it easier to make some of these changes to go green?
Do you want to answer that?
We worked with the interior designers, and they were very, very specific with working with on all the material and everything that we had to do. It was easier because we're starting fresh. I would say that's the easiest way. But we still had to meet a lot of requirements. So based on that, we had to look at what was required, and even to get the points, whether or not we could meet all those points. So we picked some that we said, this is just not realistic. But like Joe said, we also have a green roof on the other side by the garage. those, so this way, you know, as much as possible, we have a green feeling around the whole hospital.
And
We also, I'm sorry, we also provided, we have bicycle racks, but a big part of that, we also provided a locker room and showers. So if you ride your bike to work, you can put your stuff there, you take a shower and get ready for work. So we tried to think of everything possible.
That's part of the green rating system, is allowing our employees the capability of provisions so they can ride their bikes to work. Also, we put 25 electric vehicle charging stations in our parking structure. And you know, that's a good question, because we started, our goal was the lowest level of being a green building, which is certified, but we were challenged by our CEO, Audrey Myers, to go all the way up to gold. So during the design process, we had to change certain things in order to achieve those additional points that allowed us to be a gold-rated healthcare building, and we comfortably achieved that, I think.
Right. And then while I was doing my research, I read something about a cogeneration plant on site. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Joe's the expert on that.
Well, we were concerned about resiliency, and that was the number one reason, is resiliency. And although we have three very large emergency generators that, should the power go out, the emergency generators will come on within less than 10 seconds, will come on and power half the building. We wanted to power the entire building. So in speaking again to our CEO, Audrey Myers, I said, you know, Audrey, in order for us to be a resilient, you know, and to fully care for our patients, we should, the recommendation would be to install a cogeneration plant. A cogeneration plant produces our electricity, and it can produce over 40% of our electricity at any time. But at the same time, the heat generated from this plant will produce a second utility, which is either heat or air conditioning, in a way, for free. So number one reason why we did this was for resiliency. Number two was cost savings. We're anticipating over $1 million a year in savings producing our electricity rather than purchasing it from PSE&G. And then finally, as part of our LEED or our green mission, would reduce our carbon footprint as well, because we would rather produce our own electricity in a friendly, environmentally friendly, cleaner process, and we would reduce, we're estimating close to 9,000 tons of carbon emissions a year as a result of that. And we're part of we're committed to reducing our carbon footprint. We're part of the Practice Green Health, which we plan to reduce our carbon emissions by 50% by 2030.
Now we're here in front of the Alexander panels and from the Alexander mural. Now, please tell me about the mural here. It has a great history.
We had a goal here, or drive, to bring the panels back to Paramus. And it was an idea from certain people to take them out of the warehouse, which they were stored mostly in Paterson, New Jersey, I believe in Carlstadt, take them and repurpose them in another fashion. And they came up with this idea to put these 3 columns up here in our garden area, and one more up in the other garden area up closer to the hospital, so that the people of Paramus and all of Bergen County could enjoy their beauty.
Of course. And now, these panels have a lot of history before being here on the hospital. Can you just give me a bit of a run through of some of the history of them? Sure.
These panels were painted by an artist named Stefan Knapp, and they were commissioned for the Alexander store, which was located in Paramus off of Route 17, around where IKEA is currently. He commissioned these panels, and there's 280 of these panels that were hung outside of the Alexander store from early 60s to late 90s, when the store went out of business. Then they were removed and stored in the warehouse. Stefan Knapp was a Royal Air Force pilot, and during World War II, and this was his view of what he thought would be a map of the world.
So the way they're displayed now, inside and outside of the hospital, do they create more of a third dimension to the artwork here, besides just being just spread out on just one wall?
Yeah, it's a sort of a triangular shape, as you can see, like a tower, triangular tower, so people can enjoy the view all the way around. And we position them because as you walk around them, there's many backgrounds. For instance, right now, the background to these panels is the brickwork from the hospital. So these colors pop when on in this angle. If you go completely around, there'll be a separate building, a mirrored building, our 140 East Ridgewood Avenue building, where they'll have a different color that pops with that facade. So we planned it that way. We put mock-ups together. We spun them until we were very happy with the right angle with the right background.
So based on the angle, let's say if I was a patient in one of the rooms up there, would I be able to see the panels and all the artwork down here?
It was meant that way because we feel with the green space and now adding on these panels will contribute to the healing environment for the patient. Seeing these green spaces will again, the patient will be hopefully will help them heal quicker.
Right.
With
So,
better patient outcomes.
right. So basically, you could either view them kind of passively from a window or actively walk through this green area here and walk through them.
And you can see we've designed the paths and benches all throughout that you could enjoy the view of the panels as well as the garden.
And how many other just sort of panel areas are there like this outside of the hospital?
So but in our background now, we have 18 panels. There's another one further up that's another 6 panels. And then we have the coveted Stefan Knapp signature panels that are located outside our conference center. We plan to put more of the panels up in more of our locations, and we plan to do that by the end of next year.
We haven't installed all our artwork yet. We just started to, because recently we had a festival here. But it will be all artists from the tri-state area. We have pictures of the Jersey Shore. So we really want to incorporate the whole area, which is really nice. Not only that, in the garage, when we finish the garage and we start using it completely, each level will be after a park in Bergen County, except for one, which will be the Greater Patterson Falls. So we'll have a color and a little design and the name. So what's nice about it, if for some reason you forget where you parked, say, oh, I parked on Van Soon Park. So it'll be kind of nice, and it's nice that we brought the community together.
Right. And how important was it when putting the yard up in the hospital that it was all locally sourced?
We felt that it would be really nice just to have people locally, because there's so many people out there working and looking to move ahead. And we've worked with our architectural firm, and they put out RFPs to all these local areas, like all the Bergen County. There was an arts foundation, all these different areas, to have their artists come in and send them their pictures and their work. And then through a committee, there's about 5 of us, we went back and we spent months going over all the pictures of what we felt would suit Valley Hospital and what we want to represent.
We have 2 lobbies. The second floor lobby will be where we feel most of our visitors and most of our staff will be coming into, because the parking structure, which has over 1,500 parking spaces, people will be coming in through that canopy area and the door that we walked in, coming through here. There'll be reception here, there'll be security here, and at this point they'll be able to go in many areas. Number one, they will be able to go to the surgical waiting area should they have a procedure scheduled. Number 2, they could come to our retail pharmacy area, which is right in this location. 3, they can use these visitor elevators to visit our family care pavilion, which is our south pavilion, which houses our labor and delivery, our NICU, which is a neonatal intensive care unit, 2 floors of postpartum rooms for the mothers, and then on the 7th floor is our pediatric services. And then finally, they'll be able to walk in through here, which is all of our dining services area, all of our dining, sitting area, and so forth. Okay?
So when designing the lobby, how did it come to be that the lobby was designed in 2 different floors here?
Well, first of all, we had to account for the actual topography of the site. So that allowed us then to design for 2 different lobbies. And once we see our first floor lobby, which is our grand lobby, which we call our main entrance, but that enabled us to have 2 areas where people can enter, 2 areas where people can exit, and we also plan to have our patients discharged in our first floor lobby in the future.
So what are some things on the second floor lobby or the first floor lobby that aren't on the other floor?
We plan to discharge our patients on the first floor, so in order to keep it nice and warm, we placed all radiant flooring, radiant heat floors to keep the patients warm as they wait for their family members. Now, the reason why we can't discharge here in the second floor lobby is because cars cannot pull up to pick up the patients. But we have our area, a covered area where patients, family members can come in and pick up their family members as they're being discharged. Downstairs we have our spiritual care center, and those are some of the major differences here. There's 3, as I mentioned, there's 3 elevators for visitors here to the family care pavilion, and then there's 4 elevators over there for our visitors for the adult north and west pavilion. We have a total of 23 elevators in this building and 4 in our parking structure for a total of 27 elevators. And the reason why so many elevators is we'd like to keep the separation of services, where visitors have 7 elevators, staff have 11 elevators to use for supplies, for food, for trash removal, for patients. And then we have a number of other elevators that are dedicated to food, elevators dedicated to surgical instruments, sterile surgical instruments, soiled surgical instruments, and then a freight elevator as well.
So the separation of the elevators between visitors and staff, was that a big point in the construction?
It was actually a big point in COVID too, which was we're kind of glad we did that, so we would able to separate when there are sick patients with, for instance, with visitors. In Bridgewood, in our existing hospital, we only have 8 elevators. So it's almost triple the amount of elevators that we have here. Again, that enables us that flexibility to separate the sick patients from our visitors or from our staff.
So now we're here at the hydroponic gardens, a big point I wanted to touch upon this tour. So tell me, is this going to be all of the food for the hospital, or is the hospital still going to order?
The primary purpose of our hydroponic garden is for our chef and our food services group to grow their own herbs. So we'll have fresh herbs, and we could use these herbs for fresh new creations for both the staff, patients, and of course visitors.
Right. So then when these things are actually running, I mean, what would someone expect to see in them? Like, would it be plants coming out and then it would be water flowing?
There would be, yes. There's the sprayers up on top which keep the garden wet at all times. But primarily we will not be growing fruits or vegetables, but primarily it'll be herbs, like rosemary, thyme, oregano, basil, and so forth.
So when designing the hospital, was this part of the eco effort, the hydroponic garden?
Yes, it was, yeah.
So here we are now in the first floor of the lobby. So before I even start, I just want to ask, how did the idea of the grand staircase really come to fruition here?
Well, it was always part of the design. We hopefully encourage people to take the stairs. It's good for your health. Although we have 23 elevators in the hospital, there are many stairwells and staircases that we will encourage our patients. Good for your heart. And as you walk in, this is the first thing you see. And again, where we're hoping that people will take the stairs rather than taking the elevator, if you're capable, taking the elevator to go up 1 floor. So this whole area here, and you can see it's sort of a pathway here that's distinguished by the terrazzo floor. But this whole area here where there's a dark gray, we expect to be mostly chairs sofas, couches, for the visitors, of course, but primarily for our patients that we're discharging here. And then you could see from the covered area outside, patients' families will be able to drive up directly here and then have their patient or their family member wheeled out to the waiting car system. When people drive up to this first floor lobby, they have a choice. They can drive up. If they're visiting, we'll have valet service here, free valet service, which the valet person will be able to park them in the valet parking area. Or they can drop off people, pick up person, and go around. We purposely have made a sort of a U-turn that enables you to go back in the garage. So, primarily drop-offs, pickups, valet, or self-park here.
Right, so when talking about the garage, was the garage designed with kind of a little bit of safety in mind? Because I was in a hospital garage a couple weeks back, and I just didn't really feel so safe. It felt like there was nothing there, anyone could just be hiding behind any corner. So it was safety in mind kind of when designing the garage.
So for the whole hospital, we have over 400 cameras, security cameras, that are being monitored at all times, 24/7. That's one thing. Our lighting system is a bright lighting system, which will always keep everything lit up. We are required to light up the flooring at a certain level at all times. And then, of course, we're going to have our security officers make rounds of the garage.
So can you tell me about the new tag system you're doing here at the hospital with the ID tags you scan on the door?
So we have developed IDs which will enable, with the use of an RFID technology, enables a couple of things to happen. Number one, for security reasons, we're trying to make this hospital as keyless as possible. So our tags will be used to open up our doors, scanning of the tags. That's very helpful because we'll know who has entered certain spaces at all times. We're using these tags for our patient areas. So as you walk into a patient rooms, we'll be able to track who walked in a patient room, be able to determine if that person washed their hands before taking care of the patient, and then finally be able to determine if that caregiver also washed their hands before leaving. Finally, as you walk in a patient room, sometimes patients are confused and alarmed about people walking in their room. Well, in our television screen, it'll announce my name and my function so the patient knows who I am as well.
So kind of switching gears here, can you tell me about the radiant heating flooring here?
Sure. You can tell this is a very large lobby, and sometimes with the sliding doors there, which we try to create a vestibule, but as there's traffic increased, we get those doors remain open. So at times it may get too cold in this lobby. So one way to combat that is, number one, is we have an air system that pressurizes this lobby, so it prevents minimal amount of outside air from coming in. But at the same time, when you get a really cold day, you will get cold air coming in. So what we did was we installed, just in this large lobby area, we installed radiant flooring. And what radiant flooring is just a number of serpentine tubing system that runs the entire length of the bottom of this floor it was poured within the cement that's below that. Based on a thermostat, the hot water will flow through this tubing and keep the floor warm at all times, which will then warm up the lobby especially, and it will be very helpful, especially on cold days, and we have discharging patients here. The last thing we need is for them to feel cold.
So talking about some other facilities in the lobby, can you tell us about some of the conference centers and conference rooms?
Sure. As you walk in, there's a reception desk, and then behind the reception desk, we actually have our conference center, which has, with the use of movable walls, you could do 9 smaller conference rooms, and we could remove the walls, move the walls, and make 2 large conference areas too. So you can see that we put together a description honoring the Stefan Knapp mural at Alexander's. And this is what it looked like from the early 60s to the late 90s before it was removed and torn down. Describes Mr. Knapp and what he did for this particular mural. And there's even a great picture of him painting the murals in an airplane hangar on skis. You could see him right, and describes everything that we did, commission them and bring them over to here in our hospital. And these are the panels. These are the coveted Knapp panels that we had restored. All of our panels we had restored from the time they were removed in 96, I believe, or 97, and then they were placed in a warehouse. So we had them clean and restored. And the bonus was that as we restored them, we saw there were additional signatures up here. And in doing the research of these additional signatures, we discovered that those were the people that helped Stefan Knapp in putting this whole mural together and painting. So those were his assistants. And you couldn't see it from Route 4 or Route 17, and now you could see it up close.
Right, so when bringing all the murals and the panels into the Valley system, was there a lot of research done just on the whole mural project?
Yes, there was. Yes, there was lots of research done on the history. Who owned them, where were they located, how could we bring them all together and bring them back to Paramus. This is all interventional services here. It's over 2 acres of interventional services. Here we have 17 operating rooms. We have 3 EP labs, 2 cath labs. We have a whole number of prep recovery rooms here in PACU, which means post-anesthetic care unit. And then we have all the supporting offices and the waiting room. The whole second floor is 152,000 square feet, which is the same area of 3.5 football fields. Okay, so think of when you watch football, how big it is. Think of 3.5 football fields just on this floor.
In the old hospital in Ridgewood, we have it all separated. The operating room is one area, EP cath lab is another area, endoscopy, ERCP are 2 other areas. So we decided to bring everything together. So where I'm standing right now is the crossover to the red line, which is all the sterile area. So you have to be in scrub suits here as well. So we've been spending a lot of time working with a consulting company on bringing all the teams together for operational issues as well. So that's one of the things it's been taking us a long time because it's a major change to bring everybody together and work on how we're going to do the workflow, how we're going to bring instruments to and from the OR. But it's been really a fascinating experience.
All right, so here we are now in the operating room, and can you tell me about how everything in here is just designed down to just the littlest things, just engineered that way?
So this is probably our largest operating room. It's over 1,000 square feet, and this is going to be this particular OR will be used for neuro interventional services. So anything associated with the brain, for instance. So it requires to be a large OR because for those very delicate and critical operations, you require a lot of equipment, a lot of robotics, lots of cameras and so forth to support this service. So what makes this OR unique is that when the neurosurgeons are, for instance, operating on let's say a brain tumor, they'll be in here operating, and before this type of OR was developed, the neurosurgeon would be going in the brain and removing what they thought would be the entire tumor. But sometimes, my understanding from the neurosurgeons are sometimes tumors are not all entirely removed. So they hide under the brain lobe or certain areas of the brain. So once they put the patient back together again, the patient goes to recovery, and then after months of recovery, has an MRI scan, and they figure out that they have not removed the brain tumor, and now it has grown. So, hence another surgery. What makes this OR unique is that now brain surgeons can come in here, the neurosurgeons come here, remove what they think is the brain tumor, and then wheel the patient behind those two doors there, which there is an MRI unit. So they'll be able to scan the patient's head, and if they still see that there are remnants of the tumor, they take the patient back to the operating table. They know now exactly where the tumor is, and then they'll remove the tumor, close up the patient, and then have a better recovery and better outcome for the patient. What makes all of our operating rooms unique too is that there's something known as surgical site infections. Surgical site infections are what happens to a patient when they've opened up either a cavity or their head or whatever, and if any impurities get into the site, there could be an infection to the patient, internal to the patient. So the last thing you need is an infection while you're recovering. What we've installed are these ceilings, these modular ceilings in all our procedural rooms, and you can see there are thousands of little holes in that ceiling. So what that does is that it's filtered air that will create an air curtain around the whole patient. So the likelihood of an impurity getting into the patient's open cavity will be very small. And also, having these ceilings here have proven that the surgical site infections, or SSIs we call them, have greatly reduced with procedures in other installations. So we put these in all our procedural rooms.
So the airflow systems, were they one of the biggest design factors when building the concept of this operation room?
Yes, so we're required, there's four requirements for the environment of an operating room. Number one is we have to have 20 air changes per hour. So that it changes 20 times every hour, so we have to have enough air to maintain that 20 air changes. Also, you could hear a little whistling going on, and this room has to be positively pressured at all times so that the air escapes out, filtered air escapes out, and no unsterile air comes in. So it has to be air changes, positively pressured, and then the temperature has to be within 68 and 72 degrees, and then humidity in here has to be anywhere from 20 to 60%. So we monitor all those. Now, having 20 air changes at all times is also energy consuming. So a certain hour, predetermined, sometimes in the evening, we start a timer, which says, okay, the timer starts, and we have occupancy sensors, which determine if there's no people in here and it's after a certain hour in the night, the air changes go down drastically from 20 air changes to, let's say, 7 or 8 air changes, which reduces our energy consumption, which leads back to our green points. This building, we did a whole energy model, and this building is over 14% more efficient than similar buildings, similar hospitals of this size.
Right, and switching gears a little bit so the lighting, what I understand, it's shadow proof or reduces shadows.
Yes.
Is that good for surgery when you're on the operating table? And then, is it good for surgeons when there's less shadows?
That's a good point. So these strip lighting, the LED strip lighting, reduces, you can see there's hardly any shadow that my hand is producing, and really surgeons like that. They also like these very bright exam lights that we have. We have 2 here. So yes, being able to have adequate lighting and reduction of shadow is very important for the surgeon, especially when they're working inside the cavity.
Right, and then just the size of this operating room, was it designed specifically in mind for when new systems or new technologies come about to be able to fit them in this space?
Yeah, we designed them large, so we go from over 1,000 square feet, which is where we are in one, to our general ORs, which are 650 square feet. And it's designed, the size is dependent on the amount of equipment that will be here to support that particular surgery. For instance, we have cardiac ORs, which require lots of equipment, which are similar in size, maybe a little smaller than this one. But yes, it enables, the size enables us to have the flexibility in the future to introduce new procedures.
So our goal is to keep as much equipment off of the floor, so therefore the floor is clean, and we have outlets around the room continually with data ports, so as new equipment is brought in, we have plenty of room for that. So our goal is to keep the floor empty. Traditionally in ORs, they had a lot of cabinets here with all the supplies. We now have developed what we call the sterile core, where we have all our supplies out there, and they'll bring it in for the particular case instead of leaving it in the room.
We're in the room, what is known as the interoperative MRI space, and you can see these were the doors that were on the other side of the neuro OR that we were just in. So when a surgeon is ready, they will bring a patient through here, still under anesthesia, in a non-ferrous table, and they will put the patient in to get scanned. To make sure that the tumor, for the example, has been removed. They'll put the patient in and go into the control room, which we just walked through, and they'll lock the doors, magnetically lock all doors so no one can walk in while the procedure is happening. They'll scan the patient, they'll review the scan on the screen and determine what the next course of action is. If you look over there, that's the other neuro room with the doors open. That surgeon may bring their patient here as well.
So the concept of having an MRI machine right next to the surgery room, is this a new concept here at Valley, or is this something that happens at other hospitals?
It's a new concept at Valley. We visited other hospitals that had this to have them share in their ideas and their concepts of what worked and didn't work for them. The whole hospital industry were very collaborative. Now we're finding that major medical centers are coming to see us because we've set the standard now. Whether it's multiple hospitals from the city and hospitals in New Jersey are coming in here to see what did Valley do and how did we set the standard. And this is a very popular room to see that because not many medical centers have this capability.
I just wanted to tell you a little about this area. It's called the Oasis and Serenity Room. And if you can see, we have a waterfall here, and it can change colors. So visitors and family members, while they're waiting for their loved ones after having surgery, come sit here and look out the window at those beautiful patterns and panels in the gardens. So it's an area of just peace and quiet. And it's not for staff, it's just for visitors and families. Yeah, so this area right now is our staff elevators and visitors. We have everything pretty much behind the scenes, so when I take you out into the patient area, you'll see the difference. If you look down this corridor here, we have like the staff locker room, we have the medication room, the clean supply, the dirty supply. So for example, when environmental needs to bring out their dirty trash, it comes here and downstairs to the outside loading dock area. And the food supplies and everything will come up through this area, so there'll be no noise. That's what's really nice about it. So anything that we have, all the garbage, all the equipment or whatever, will all be behind the scenes, and it'll be nice and quiet and peaceful for the patient. So we have two of these, one on each side, and I'm going to take you out into the area where the patient care is.
All right, here we go. And can you just tell me how important it is to have an open concept here, like how I see here?
Yes. This is our nurse station. So one of the things I wanted to point out, it's a 36-bed unit. There's 18 beds on this side and 18 on the other. We have two nurse stations, one here and one in the back of the unit. So basically, this nurse station will serve 9 patients on one side, 9 on the other. We have over there, you'll see the white computers. Those are for our cardiac monitoring system. The spaces that you see up over there, those are for patient care boards. We don't use names for HIPAA, but we'll use initials and and we'll know what's going on with the patients. And these are computers for the nurses to use. Also, we have a room over here which is called the team room. So if they need to talk about a case or something going on with the patient, we can go in there and discuss it with the doctors, or other doctors can discuss it together. We purposely frosted it because we don't want people to think, when they walk around and they see a bunch of people together and maybe their loved one needs something, they'll be thinking, oh, they're just in a room talking, versus doing something that's important for the patient care. We happen to be on the critical care unit, which is cardiac care. If we have computers for the nurses and physicians or other caregivers, social workers, dietitians to document information. We have eliminated cubicle curtains because of infection control reasons, and we have integrated blinds, which is really nice. You can close the blinds for privacy and you can open them.
Right, and then also can you tell me about the the tablet on the front door over there?
Yes, that tablet on the front door is for patient information, HIPAA compliant. Presently today, what happens is people take pieces of paper and put it on the head wall so people remember what's going on. So we'll have it out here before you walk into the room. Also, it'll be part of the care board we talked about that, all the information on the care board.
So basically what those tablets are doing are kind of replacing what you would see in a traditional hospital, like a clipboard and a whole rack and everything?
Correct.
All right. Yes, so now let's...
So here we have a double door, like basically a regular door size, but this door also will open because in critical care, especially when you have a lot of equipment, respirators or IV poles, which you'll see right here, it's easier to get the patient in and out of the room.
Here we are now in the patient rooms, and I don't even know where to begin. I mean, I guess we could start here with the foot wall.
Okay, so we have a football here. This is our 75-inch TV screen. It says welcome to the Valley Hospital. It's not completely live yet, but on this board we will also have a patient care board. We'll have information, patient's name. Even for example, my name happens to be Patricia, but I go by Trish. So we'll ask the patient, what do you want to be called? So they call you the right name. Also, we talked a little bit about RFID. So now I would come in here and would say Trish Clark is here in the room. What's also nice about this, sometimes, especially with elderly patients, sometimes the patient will say, nobody ever came in to see me. I was here alone all day. It will be documented and you'll know the doctor was in, the nurse was in, or whatever.
Right, and then also with the foot wall, isn't a big concept of it just having everything centralized into one zone?
Yes. So we can order food from here, for example, and you also will have a phone if you wanted to, if somebody's not comfortable with ordering it. You can also, which is very interesting, across over there is another computer screen. So the physician can come in here and put the information on about what's going on with the patient. Say there was an x-ray and they want to show where the bone broke. He'll be able to bring it up on the computer here and for the patient to see or the family member.
Right, and then speaking of the computer system in the wall there, I did some research on this, and can you tell me about how it was specifically designed for nurses to not really be turning their back on the patient when entering in their information?
So this is the basic computer board, okay? What's really good, I happen to be short, you happen to be tall, it will go up and down. We don't have that set now. But we were very concerned, because if I'm trying to get information to the patient, I would do this. So we worked with the company to do like a lazy Susan effect. So now I can be on the computer and still talk to the patient and documenting my information. Because the last thing you want to do is have your back to the patient. So again, then we close it up. It's not set now, but eventually it will, if you don't close it, it will close on its own and lock. Also, we wanted to have, as you can see in the room, we tried to combine the clinical versus just a nice environment for the patient to make them feel more comfortable and at home. So that was another reason we wanted to have a different type of setup here. So it's not so overpowering when you walk in the room or a patient sees it.
Right. And then can you tell me about the kind of family area here?
Yes, over here is the family area. This is a patient chair with this ottoman, because lots of times when patients get out of bed, they like to have a footstool. So we have that. We also have a couch for you to sit on, but it also can be folded down, and we can use it for people to sleep over. So if you're concerned about your loved one, we can put a sheet on here and you can sleep over. We've also provided this table, so if you want to eat a meal while your loved one is here, you could do that, or if you need to work on a computer or something, you can do that as well.
Right, And then can you tell me about how I heard apparently that there's double oxygen outlets and medical air and all of that in the rooms?
Yes. What we've done over here is, if you can see, on both sides of the head wall, we have duplicate air and oxygen and suction. We pulled it away from the back of the bed, so therefore it's easier for the nurse or the physician to get at when you're taking care of the patient. Also, you can have double, if you have a respirator or other type of equipment, a very sick patient, you'll have plenty of room and not all the equipment on one side.
Right. So in a high workload situation, like for example, if there was another outbreak of COVID-19 or something similar, would this room be equipped to house multiple patients?
No, this is a private room, and that's probably one of the greatest advantages about building the new hospital. In Ridgewood, we have 70 private rooms and not many private rooms. What we did, though, for COVID is this whole unit can be turned into negative pressure in case there was another situation like that. I also just wanted to show you something over here. This is a special device. This is an IV pole, and normally you would have patients, if they have IV fluids, they'll be on a pump. During COVID, what we did in the old hospital, we put holes in the wall as best as possible so you could put the IV tubing in, so the pump would be outside of the room so the nurses didn't have to keep coming in. Well, now this is illegally, approved for a hospital environment. Now, if this ever happens again, we can do the same thing. So we did try to take lessons learned from COVID into the design here.
Definitely. And then, can you tell me about the nurses server right here? I know a lot of work went into this.
Yes. Well, let me tell you a couple of things. I happen to be an RN. So remember we talked to badge ID? I can open this drawer because I'm an RN. Okay? So I can get my medications can be placed from the outside and placed in here, and now I can give my patients medications. Right. Also, it's interesting, we have a little shelf here. So now, like for example, if I need to mix something up, I can use that here. Now, if you happen to be a patient care associate or somebody stock in the unit, you still can have access, but they wouldn't have access to this. So let me show you this. So this is where our baskets are. They can be stocked from the outside. And this yellow one is, for example, once we start to use the supplies, we can put them back in here. We've worked through this with infection control, and it's all acceptable. And when the patient goes home, you can either give them the supplies or you can discard them, but the remainder of the supplies can stay here. One more exciting thing is the linen cart can go in here. So for all the dirty linen can go in here, and there's a door on the outside, so you can take the linen from outside and you don't have to disturb the patient.
Right, and now I just want to touch back a little bit about the footwall. So is the footwall systems kind of operational here? Like, can I flip through a couple of the
right
channels,
now, it's not operational, but it can be operated through the call bell here. And eventually, we don't have it here right now, there'll be a little tab, like a little tablet, so they can bring up information on here. We also have an educational system on this for patients to, learn about their disease or any type of medication they're taking. So it's really filled with a variety of information.
Right, so the tablet that's going to be here, does it go along with kind of the footwall systems too?
Correct, it's connected to the footwall system. And we also have the ability to have something similar. It's not really FaceTime, but with that tablet, you'll be able to communicate with your family or loved ones as well.
Like a sort of televisit?
Type of that, yes.
Right. And then, so is all this the footwall and just the tablet there? Is it just innovative technology here?
There is, and let me tell you one more innovative technology. Up there in the corner, you're going to see what we call orging. We installed this in the Ridgewood campus. It's an AI type of intelligence where it doesn't show the patients, but it's like a body stick. And you can see if the patient's trying to get out of bed. So our goal is to prevent falls. We've instituted it in Ridgewood. We probably are down like 30% on our falls. So we decided to put this in every single room in the hospital. We've also, in our call bell system here, which is not normal, the patient can adjust the temperature within certain time frame. They can adjust their lights and they can adjust the shade. So for example, those are kind of things that might annoy a patient normally. Oh, I wish I could turn my light off. Oh, I'm really cold. They can do it themselves, so they don't have to wait for us to call engineering and somebody to come and check it. Or some people like the light. I happen to like light and sleep with it, but some people like it dark, so they can do that themselves. Also, over in the corner, there's a switch so the family member can do it. And we also put some data ports, so if you have a phone, you can charge your own phone.
Right, so basically what you're trying to say is that everything, like the blinds and then the temperature, lighting could be controlled just from the remote?
Correct.
Is this is this kind of like an innovative sort of thing?
It is, because right now in hospitals today, they don't have that. So that's why we worked with the company to put it right on the call bell, so it's easy use for the patient. But again, it's much more convenient. They don't have to wait for somebody else to do it. Also, I don't know if you noticed, we have private bathrooms in every single room. We have showers except in the critical care area.
So I have to ask, what happens to the Ridgewood facility now?
Well, Ridgewood will still be keeping a lot of services there. For example, we have the outpatient lab, outpatient diagnostic imaging, breast center, endoscopy, and basically we're now looking to bring other services there. So we might be putting cardiac rehab there. We haven't decided on a lot, but it definitely will stay and will be part of the Valley Health System.
Right, so I can see over there is sort of an empty area. Is that where one of the green roofs is going to be?
Yes, that's going to be a green roof, which we haven't put in yet, but it's between the garage and the family care pavilion. That happens, it's going to be almost level with the labor and delivery unit, so we wanted to make sure we had some greenery there, and there will also be trees against the wall so nobody could see into the rooms.
So here we are now in the NICU area, and can you tell me about how Valley handles the different levels of the NICU?
Well, in Ridgewood, we have 2 rooms, one intensive and one intermediate. As you can see in this room, this is going to be a room for twins. We have the ability for twins to come in here, double head walls, and basically we don't have to worry about which one is intermediate or intensive, because they're all going to be private rooms. We have 17 private rooms, and as you can see here, these are doubled up. We have 5 doubled up, but lots of times we do have twins. So we thought it would be better for the family to be having the same room. We're still under construction, but we have a couch here again for the family members to stay, and we have all the equipment in here for the family to be able to be with their infant. Right now, it's a very tight headquarters, so this is really state of the art.
Right. All right. So what I've noticed here are these elevators here are behind locked doors. So can you tell me a little about this?
Yes, these are the elevators again for patients and workers, no visitors. We wanted everything internal again. So for example, labor and delivery is a floor below us. So if we have a baby that's so small that needs to come right up to the NICU, these elevators will take them directly up here, no access to the public, and get them the care right away.
How important is it in this new hospital that the elevators are differentiated between patients and staff and
It's
other
very
services?
important, because today in Ridgewood, what we do, and sometimes it doesn't happen, but we encourage, whenever an elevator opens and there is a patient on it, we ask or a patient's waiting to get on, we ask all the people to get off the elevator. So now they have to get off the elevator and wait for the next one. So now there is no delay whatsoever. We press the button from the area, comes directly up. We also will have this elevator program for different uses. For example, if there's a code where somebody is very, very sick and is having a problem, it's going to be regulated for that. So immediately the elevator will come to that team. So there's going to be a variety of different ways we can regulate this elevator, but we won't be doing that on the public elevators. And we don't have that in Ridgewood today.
Right. And actually, real quick, while we're outside by the nurse station here, just in general, just like in an average patient floor, what would be the patient to nurse ratio on the floor?
It really depends on the care. In the NICU, will probably be 1-to-1 or 1-to-2, depending on the level. Sometimes they still have babies here where they call growers and feeders, and that might be a little bit different. They might have 3 babies, but they'll all be taken care of. Critical care, it really is based on the acuity of the patient, of how the nurses take care of the patient, and then we assign accordingly. Staff ratios go up and down according to that every day. It's not like a set number and that's all you have. It goes according to how sick the patient is.
Right. And is there any understaffing concerns with a whole new hospital being built?
I don't feel that we have that concern. We've been hiring like left and right, hiring all sorts of disciplines. So we anticipate we will be fine for the new hospital. We're starting orientation in January for all the different units, for all their individual like building orientation versus everything that's unique and different for the different departments.
All right, so here we are now in another patient room, but if you look just out the window here, you can see one of them, a couple of green roofs here in the hospital. So can you tell me a little bit about just the whole green
Yes,
roof
well, part of
concept?
this is about our whole LEAD and Green program, but the other thing is we didn't want the patients on both the north and west buildings to just be looking at a roof. So we thought, wouldn't it be great, especially to meet our LEAD requirements as well, to have a green roof. It's not a roof where you can go out and walk or anything like that, but it will be changed in the seasons according to the flowers that are out there, the plants for that time. So it's really pretty special to be able to, because it's peace and quiet. It's a sense of comfort when you see plants and trees and things like that.
I mean, from just a mental standpoint, how much does looking out and not seeing just like a gray roof, but then the whole scene of green over there, how much does it really help the patient mentally?
It does mentally because, it makes you feel peaceful and comfort and quiet, just like, wow, this is, I can look out at beautiful green grass. I'm not stuck in this room. That's also part of our artwork, why we developed the artwork because of that. Also, back to the footwall, that also will have areas where you can scan through beautiful scenes and just listen to music.
Right.
So that's all very comforting and healing to a patient.
So would you say that just patient and even family comfort was a big design point in the making?
Major. We have what we call a patient focus group where they were very actively involved in the whole planning and design. In fact, we had planned like groups of people for months at a time over in the building on 140, just designing the plans with everybody's thought process in mind.
So I noticed here in this patient room that there's a hanging bar there from the ceiling right about where the bed would be. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes, we took everything into effect for the proper care of a patient. So in critical care on the north and west building, we have overhead patient supports, and that's what that is. So for example, if somebody is like paralyzed or if somebody's extremely obese, that can help move them around in the bed. We've also, on all the other units, provided 6 per med surg unit, and over here you really can't see it. It's what we call a dialysis box, so all the critical care rooms will have dialysis box. We no longer bring our patients to the dialysis unit. Our goal was to bring all the care to the patient. Instead of having the patient to move all over, as much as possible, we want to be able to provide the care within the room.
So this is kind of the walk-in entrance for the emergency room, yeah?
Yes, we have a separate entrance. This is the area where you drive up and drop off, where you can park your car. There's limited parking spaces here, so we will have valet parking, and the patients and family can walk through this entrance and, address what their situation is. Obviously, if it's an ambulance situation, that's around the corner, and there's a separate section. They come in directly.
Right, and then, so how are things going to be done, like maybe some new things being done in this hospital compared to other hospitals in emergency care?
Well, our goal is to get the patient directly into the room as fast as possible. Also, because we have almost double the amount of our emergency bays, we anticipate hopefully never having to have a patient in the hall.
How is this emergency room equipped for people who are suspected of having strokes?
Well, we have a dedicated elevator that takes us up directly to the second floor. What's unique about this environment is we have the diagnostic imaging center right next to it. So in the ambulance entrance, the stretcher bay can come in, go straight down the hall, right into the CT room where they would do a test. They call it the neuro exam bay, would be right there. And if they need to do a procedure, they would activate the team and immediately go to the dedicated elevator back by the ambulance that can take them right up to the OR, not wasting any time.
Right, and of course, time management is very important during a stroke situation.
Yes.
All right, so another thing I have to ask. So in the different areas of the hospital we've been in, I've seen there's different color schemes on the wall. Is that something to do with just really just guiding around the hospital?
Well, that's
location?
one thing, but we also wanted to designate each floor color differently. And in the ER, each pod, this is what you call a pod, each pod is a different color. So we wanted to do soothing colors. We were very fortunate. Our CEO, Audrey Myers, was actively involved with all the decisions for the artwork, the colors, the furniture. She sat in every chair we picked. I mean, she was actively involved with everything. So that was really fascinating. And we wanted to pick colors that were soothing into the environment and to the patient.
Alright, so now we're in the spiritual care center or chapel, and it's empty at the moment, but can you tell me a little bit about what's planned in here?
Well, you just used the word chapel, and we decided not to call it a chapel, but we decided to call it spiritual care. We want to make sure everybody from every community or religion feels welcome here. This will have some seating and we'll have some storage for the different, if they want to do a mass, they can do that. Sometimes there's different mats people come and say prayers on. So we want everybody to feel that this is for everyone, not just one religion. And it's a time sometimes just to sit and reflect. Again, when a family member is going through something terrible, a surgery or whatever, you're so stressed yourself and you never sometimes want to tell it to the person. So now they're in the operating room and you're like, wow, what's happening now? Their whole life can change. Maybe they don't know if they had cancer yet. They're going to find that out. So it's a nice time to just come peaceful, away from everything, with nice lighting, just to reflect and meditate.
So while we were walking here, I'd noticed that this window here had a little bit of a different scheme than the other panels there. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
We purposely did that because every so often you have to replace the MRIs. So there's 2 on this floor and 1 on the second floor, and it has the same setup. So what will happen is we will roll the MRI out through this window, will be replaced, and you roll the MRI out. So we have to think of all the future, not only what we're designing today, but for the future. So this would be the way the old one goes out and the new one comes in.
All right, so now we're here at the legacy wall. Like, it's a bit of a hallway with a timeline of Valley Hospital and just the whole Valley network. And I mean, there's a lot of ground to cover here, but I want to cover some of the key events here as we kind of walk in. But first, can you tell me a little bit about how this idea kind of came about?
Yes, Valley Hospital, obviously, is in Ridgewood. So what we wanted to do is bring our old, the thoughts of how Valley Hospital came about and where we went all through these years in Valley. So we basically developed a timeline. I call it through the years, which is exactly what it is. And Audrey, our CEO, and Megan, our Vice President of Marketing, worked for hours and hours upon this to develop what's the right thing to put in here. And it's really fascinating. It brings a lot to your heart. Here's a picture of the new the addition that was going to be built on. Here's a picture of a groundbreaking story. We have a book that's called The Story of Valley Hospital. And here it is when we start to talk about when Valley first opened. You have administrators, you have the medical staff, you have some of the nurses, the first baby born in Valley. So what they did, it was obviously very hard to choose because there's so many events and so many things that have happened through the years, but this is a pretty fascinating thing. So they picked the key things that really made a difference to Valley. We started this with 1940s into the 60s, and we go down through the years, and as you walk down the corridor, you'll see the different changes. And what's really fascinating, at the very end, there's a video screen which will be all about the future.
I mean, we could spend the whole hour here just going event by event, and it would be great, but I mean, what are just some of the really key things here to pull from the wall?
Well, right now we're standing, it says 1963, the West Wing opened. So this is another example of growth and moving, bringing more care to Valley and to the village of Ridgewood and to all the patients in the surrounding towns. So that's why hospitals have to continually, do renovations and changes because of the fact that there's so much new technology out there, and that's what's going to be giving the best care to the community that you serve.
Right, definitely.
Over here is, again, we just happened to stop, groundbreaking ceremonies for New Wing at Valley Hospital in 1972. It's another. This is the Bergen building. So we have 3 buildings. We have the Phillips building, we have the Bergen, and we have the Cheel building. But previously, before the Cheel building was opened in 1987, the Linwood building was knocked down to help build the parking garage. And again, here we stop right in front of this. Valley undertakes a long-range plan to manage growth in the community and need for health services. So we started more plans for the future. We are very well known for our obstetrical unit. I think last year in '22, we hit over 4,000 deliveries. Valley does a lot of things in Ridgewood here. Every year they have a parade in Ridgewood. And here we again, stopping here one more time, 1985, the North Wing included, a project was developed. That was groundbreaking, 1985. We opened in 1987. We then knocked down the old building. In the new building, we had the operating room. We had all, at that time, labor and delivery, mother-baby, orthopedics, diagnostic imaging, and eventually we opened a NICU, which comes along in this next picture, which is around 1988. We never had a NICU before, and Dr. Manganiello was one of the first doctors brought on as the director of neonatology to open our neonatal intensive care unit. First laser laparoscopic cholecystectomy, which is obviously for a gallbladder. Then over 1992, the North Wing, which was originally the name, it was dedicated in the name of CHIEL because they donated money to the hospital. Over here in 1998, the Marin Critical Care building was dedicated. That was another, we didn't have a fourth floor in the Bergen building, and we had a very small critical care unit on the second floor in Bergen, and we added a fourth floor to the hospital, and it was dedicated to Dorothy Marin. Again, she was a donor.
How are all of these photos found and clipped together here?
Audrey Myers, our CEO, and Megan Fraser, our Vice President of Marketing, spent numerous hours going through all of these details to pick out what they best felt represented Valley and the future Valley. The lobby was named the Schottmeyer Library in 2000. So this is a picture of the NICU. They have a reunion every year. And right in front of us, we actually have this timeline in Ridgewood in a display case from 1951 to 2001. And that's when we celebrated 50 years of service. So that, again, had all little tidbits about all the different things we've done at Valley since the beginning. Over here in 2002, the Robert and Audrey Loco Pavilion opened, and if you turn around, it's directly across the street.
So once this hospital is open, will it be kind of the centerpiece of the whole Greater Valley campus around here?
Yes, it definitely will.
Here, while we're here for a second, I just want to rewind. I want to suggest something to add to this wall of timeline. So, right here, before 2008, 2007, I think you should add the timeline. 2007, Paul Hakimian was born in Ridgewood Hospital.
Oh, fantastic. That's very exciting.
So, gotta get that in
Congratulations.
there. Yeah.
And over here, 2019, November 1st of 2019 is when we first put shovels in the ground to build this building. We spent hours upon hours working through all sorts of design, still to this today. The most exciting part about this is we really involved all physicians, all staff, environmental, CPD, the OR, respiratory, every staff type of staff person in Valley was part of this project and still is today.
The future is here.
And now here, the future is here. Our goal is we will be opening April 14th at 6 a.m. We will close the ER in Ridgewood, and we will start transferring patients over here. And we anticipate moving in one day. Wow. We purposely chose a Sunday because Bergen community has the Blue Laws. So that is our goal, and we've been working with a consulting company that moves hospitals all the time. And our goal is to get that done in one day. We have numerous people involved, and the fun part about it is we have so many people who volunteer to be part of it. We're thinking we probably have too many, but we are developing all these different teams of who's going to stay in the old hospital. We like to have some support person with every patient at the Ridgewood campus and one at Paramus. We anticipate discharging patients and at a certain point in time saying we're not going to do elective surgeries, only emergencies. So we're well prepared, we're really excited, and it's a fascinating time for Valley Hospital. We have hired a separate ambulance group, a private company, because God forbid there's an emergency around the area, we want to be able to still move. So we'll have about 60 ambulances here going back and forth all day long, helping us move.
So courtesy of Miss Blake, who's been helping us out on the tour here, I've got some facts about the hospital here. So there are 38,600 cubic yards of concrete in the hospital. There's almost 1 million. There's 930,000 bricks laid out across the hospital. There are 7,300 tons of steel, 27 elevators. Across the hospital, there's 10 boilers, 4,500 square yards of carpet, 64,000 square feet of tiles, 200,000 square feet of linoleum, 900,000 square feet in the total building, 4,000 plus total workers throughout the project, 1,500 space parking structure, and a 370 bed inpatient hospital. That's all for today. Thank you to our hosts at Valley Hospital for letting us come out and do this. And thank you to Emily and Ida behind the camera. They really helped me out today. So as always, I'm Paul Hakimian, and you are watching WCTV, the all-volunteer cable access group from the Township of Washington. Take care now.